Well, Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much. I'm honored to be here with you all today, and I mean that sincerely. I want to thank you for the incredible hospitality you've shown me on behalf of my country and for your leadership to lift up those values that are essential to the character of both our nations. First Ministers, First Nations leaders, it's so important to have all your voices at this table, in my experience. And I want to thank you for allowing me to join you this morning. The partnership between Canada and the United States is among the most robust, most complex, and most important in the world. We are deeply interconnected in every way, our people, our economies, our environments, and whether addressing the areas of shared security or fostering environmental innovation and opportunity for our people, we're always stronger, we've learned, when we're working together. I'm so pleased, and so was the President, when Canada and the United States signed an MOU early this year to improve our cooperation on cancer research. To give you an example of another area where we are working closely together. I am heading up the moonshot effort for our country. We're determined, and we're convinced, as many of your scientists are, that we can cure cancer in our time. We can fundamentally alter its trajectory, and so that we can keep advancing science together and end the scourge as we know it. Today, however, our focus is on climate change, taking action before it further imperils the future of all our children. We know the threat is real, at least the vast majority of us know the threat is real. And as my friend, the President's science advisor, Dr. John Holdren, often reminds us, we have only three options. We can mitigate, we can adapt, or we can suffer. The good news is Canada and the United States have the resources to cauterize this wound if we have the will to do it. And thus far we've demonstrated that we believe we both have the will. North America is positioned to be the epicenter of energy for the remainder of the 21st century. So we can determine our own energy future, and we can help shape the energy trends around the world. At the same time, our scientists and our researchers are leading the drive for game-changing clean energy solutions. Since the President and I came to office, we believe this is the single most important issue facing our children, our grandchildren, and humanity, whether or not we grab hold of this. We've doubled the overall production of clean energy in the United States. Solar energy is up 30-fold, while the cost of solar energy has dropped 60%, the new and fastest growing source of energy in the United States. Electrical generation from wind has tripled, while the cost of that generation has dropped 40%. Enough energy now to power 18 million homes in the United States, but it's just the beginning. The cost of renewable energy is now competitive with coal and natural gas because of these scientific and technological breakthroughs. In many parts of our country, coal ranges from 6.1 to 13 cent kilowatt hours, wind between 5.5 and 8 cents per kilowatt hour, solar 4.6 to 10.7 kilowatts per hour. So in some areas, it's literally as cheap or cheaper to go with wind or solar than it is with coal. We've doubled the fuel efficiency standards for our cars. Very controversial decision when made, but of enormous consequence. We made a commitment to create electrical vehicle charging stations this last 2 weeks ago for 25,000 miles of charging stations of highways in 35 states. We have now over 460,000 electric vehicles, and the expectation is they will be exponentially increased in the near time, particularly with the access of charging stations. More than 2.5 million Americans are employed in the renewable energy industry. That's more than everyone employed by every tech firm, from Google to Microsoft to every single tech firm in the United States of America. We have now more people engaged and employed in renewable energy, making a middle-class wage. And I define that as being able to send your kid to a local park, know they'll come home safely, send them to a local high school that if they do well, they can go to college, be able to own your home and not have to rent your home, be in a position that if your child gets to college, you can figure out a way to get there, and make sure that when your one geriatric parent dies, you can care for the other and hope your children never have to take care of you. That's been the middle-class goal for both our countries. That's what people aspire to. And the fact of the matter is, these are jobs that can maintain a middle-class standard of living. Petroleum consumption in the United States is down 2% just since 2015, just since 2008. And as I said, petroleum is now the cost. Well, I won't go into that, but you know, we have a $90 billion investment. When we did during the Great Recession, the President and I put together a thing called a Recovery Act, where we stimulated the economy almost $1 trillion, over $842 billion that was able to be spent without, and according to every outside source, less than 0.2% waste or fraud. The largest program in the history of the United States. Of that, we made sure that we invested $90 billion in renewable energy and renewable energy technology. So electric cars and infrastructure support for them, fuel cells, wind turbines, more efficient appliances, not to mention LED lighting and a whole range of things that we're doing here and in America are beginning to have a demonstrable impact. One of the things the President and I are proudest of having accomplished is over the past 8 years is debunking the myth that America can't grow our economy and bring down emissions at the same time. That is simply a false choice. We can do both. We have done both. And quite frankly, the growth area is going to be in renewable energy and technology. I was saying in a private meeting with the Prime Minister, there's no reason why North America can't be the greatest exporter of technological capability for the rest of the world, in order to be able to allow them to transition from fossil fuels. We can, we've done it, and there's so much more that we can do. And working shoulder to shoulder with Canada, we have proved that solving climate change is not a zero-sum game that pits development and developing economies against one another. We rallied the world, including China, as the Prime Minister pointed out, to put in place a global framework that will give us real and a genuinely fighting chance to avert a catastrophic climate impacts. The Paris Climate Agreement, which entered rapidly into force last month, represents a commitment from governments around the world, and it acknowledges the responsibility we all bear to combat emissions. Now, I understand that many of you are concerned about what the new administration will do. I'm here to tell you I speak for the new administration in every detail. That's a joke. Come on, you have to have a little bit of sense of humor. But seriously, the new administration, what will it mean for the United States leadership on climate change? And obviously, I can't speak for the next administration. But I tend to take the long view. First of all, none of us should be in this business unless you're an optimist. This is not a business to be in if you're a pessimist. And I believe that the President always kids me, Mr. Prime Minister. He's probably said it to you. I use phrases with him repeatedly to make a point. Reality has a way of intruding. Reality has a way of intruding. Whatever uncertainty exists around the near-term policy choices of the next president, I am absolutely confident the United States will continue making progress in its path to a low-carbon future. And that's because many of the trends that I've mentioned have taken hold and are no longer dependent on government initiatives. They're market-driven. They're common sense. I addressed a conference of, I think, over 90 CEOs of the largest companies in the United States of America hosted by Goldman Sachs. And they're already pricing in the cost of carbon in everything they are doing. They see the future. They understand. The idea that you're going to see another coal-fired plant built in either one of our countries is not because of government regulation. It's cheaper, cleaner, and able to be better maintained if it's gas, for example. There's a lot of changes that are taking place. Like I said, reality is intruding. That's because many of the trends that have taken hold are no longer dependent. They're market-driven. They're common sense. Companies and businesses recognize that it's in their financial interest to harness this clean energy revolution. Last week, Google announced a new goal of powering itself with 100% renewable energy starting next year. Now, if that announcement were made 9 years ago, I think everybody wondered what they were doing at lunchtime at Google. But the truth is, it's just a reality. It's within our grasp. We didn't make them do that. They identified and made a smart business decision out of their own interest in the market economy. That's what's changing. We're seeing it in our power sector. 2/3 of the power generation capacity that we've added last year came from solar and wind, 2/3 of it. That's partly because we helped jumpstart the trend lines, but it's been sustained because of the actions taken at a state level, which is why I'm so excited to be here with all of you. The truth of the matter is that the state level is one of, in a federal system, as we have, sometimes the federal and sometimes the state takes turns being the innovators. States have moved, California being the most obvious one. And we're now beginning to see that, and they're moving for a simple reason, because people want lower energy cost. They want to be more competitive, attract businesses. That's what this is all about at the end of the day in the market economy. We're seeing it in a rapid acceleration of fuel-efficient technologies in our transportation system, and progress has taken hold even faster than we had hoped. I am supposedly Mr. Railroad at home because I ride the rail so much. We're finally getting to the point where we're talking about really generating genuine high-speed rail. We're talking about a Hyperloop that has the potential to go 800 miles an hour in a vacuum tube. Sounds like the stuff of the future. Well, we've seen the future. It is here. It is here. The things that are about to take place in the fuel efficiency of aircraft is astounding. It's absolutely breathtaking. I spend an awful lot of my time dealing with the president's Nobel laureates and others who advise the president on changes in technology. These things are just around the horizon. Your children are going to see more change in the next 10 years than you and I have seen in the last 40 years. And we just have to keep our eye on the ball, in my view. We don't have to change the way we do business in terms of the market economy. In my view, that, for example, auto manufacturers have overcomplied with our vehicle emission standards. Why? People want to buy more fuel-efficient automobiles. Remember the hue and cry when the President and I put forward these auto emission standards? The automobile industry talked about it was the end. You're looking at a guy who was raised on the sale of Chevy automobiles. That's what my dad did his whole life. The automobile industry now knows to be competitive, they've got to have more fuel-efficient automobiles. So they're exceeding the standards that we set because they realize that consumers are like stopping less at gas stations and getting more bang out of the buck at the pump and or at the electrical hookup they pull up to. We're seeing it wherever the private sector takes steps to cut down on waste of energy use, increasing efficiency. Constructing LEED certified buildings is becoming the practice, not the exception at home, and I expect it is here as well. Installing energy-saving technologies. Just being able to buy, look what's happened in the appliance industry. Look what's happened in terms of LED lighting. The multiples of all of these investments are staggering. They make a difference. Cutting energy costs boosts the bottom line, and it's just as simple as that. No CEO in America is going to go back to paying more for energy when they can invest their money in other parts of their businesses. And I can promise you that there will continue to be strong voices promoting progress in the climate action within the United States. There is a constituency that crosses party lines. So regardless of whether the next administration is as aggressive as we have been, there is no way to turn back. I'm not suggesting they intend to, but there is no way to turn back this tide that has begun to roll. The question is time. Time is of the essence. I can promise you there'll continue to be, as I said, strong voices. And those voices are coming out of our cities, our states, our civic society, our communities all across America. I hosted an international conference in Los Angeles with sister cities in China. China has awakened in a way that's very simple. When you have millions of people dying prematurely because of the air they breathe, it doesn't matter what the system is, whether it's free market, whether it's a democracy, whether it's a communist system, it puts enormous pressure on governments. When's the last time you were in Beijing? Go and look and watch. That's the sense of urgency in my discussions with President Xi. So there's a reality. Reality has intruded. But the leaders in our country are coming from our state governments, from our civil societies and communities all across the country that work to ensure that their homes and businesses are resilient to climate impacts. And as I said, it's not always the federal government that drives progress. As in the United States, each of you are taking bold steps to continue your province, your nation, and ultimately your world to move it forward. We're seeing cooperation between our countries at all levels, city to city, province to province. Ontario and Quebec are working with California to implement cap-and-trade markets. Manitoba and Minnesota are working together to expand the share of hydroelectric capacity. And just yesterday, we announced a new joint plan in Lake Ontario and the St. Lawrence River that will restore 64,000 acres of coastal wetlands, both increasing resilience to climate change and providing new economic opportunities to the people of New York State and Ontario. We're working together to secure an electric grid. And in the Arctic, where climate change is already impacting so many, I know our teams are working hard to develop an ambitious Arctic conservation plan. So there are plenty of reasons to be hopeful, but no reason to be anything other than feeling an overwhelming sense of urgency. So I want to thank you again for allowing me to join you all today, and thank all of you for Canada's continued leadership in climate change. It's going to be absolutely critical in the years ahead. And I would urge each of you who are the leaders in your province and your nations, contact, build relationships, as many of you are doing across the border, with your constituent states. For 35 of those states, Canada is the single largest market for their products. You have influence, and together you can learn from one another and lead both our federal governments. And so I find it really encouraging, Mr. Prime Minister, that so many of your leaders are here. I hope everyone here today keeps talking to one another. Share your ideas and learn from one another. Let's find ways to work together to combat climate change, province by province, community by community. And when I say community by community, I literally mean it. I spend more time going to American cities, helping them change literally their street lighting, saving them millions of dollars over time, generating enormous savings. As simple as changing the street lights in every single American city to LED lights and save hundreds of millions of dollars and ton upon ton of greenhouse gases not being emitted. It all adds up. And as I said, as I look around this room, I have a lot of hope, because each one of you in each of your province and nation know this is important, and that's why I think this is unstoppable. This is unstoppable. The only point I'll leave you with is there is no less, though, sense of urgency. A month, 6 months, a year, it matters a lot to our grandchildren, how quickly we get to the place we have to get. So again, thank you for including me, Mr. Prime Minister, and thank you personally for your leadership. The rest of the world is looking at you all, and I feel a great deal of confidence because you all are here. Thank you.